So they are a collection of, we have now, I think Keith and I have somewhere in the range of about 35 different methods that are changes in structures that one can make when one is working with a group of people, whether it is in a classroom or in a work environment, to change how they interact with each other. And the objective is to make that group much more effective. And the first step in accomplishing that is to include the participation of everybody in whatever is being done. So to reduce or eliminate the amount of time that is spent with one person occupying the whole space and all the others being quiet, and change it into situations where everybody is actively engaged in whatever is the task that is going on. Accomplish much more than what you could do with just your own talent.
You have the same people who are participating. You have the same resources, in terms of space. But what you are doing is a little something with perhaps space, a little something with the structures which may fuel interaction, so that the quality of the outcomes perhaps are very, very different.
The outcome now reflects the input of everybody that was there. Because everybody has been included in the conversation, as opposed to an outcome that reflects either the one person or two or three.
It must be very messy.
Yes, it is, but it's fun.
So as Kurt said, the next one is relational coordination. This one will be a little bit, so we'll actually be able to get our hands dirty a little bit and work through the process. What relational coordination is, it's a way to illustrate how work is coordinated amongst individuals or groups. You can use this in a group setting, you can use this in an individual setting. It's just really to show how all the groups or individuals are networking among a certain problem statement, solutioning, something along those lines. So it has a direct power to impact on quality, safety, efficiency, customer, employee satisfaction. If everybody that's supposed to be focusing on something is networking and they're all engaged, there's going to be a lot of more problem solving and efficiency going forward. What we wanted to do is find a common problem or task that all managers are face on a daily basis. We came up with the hiring process. So what we'll do is we'll break out into 3 groups, and then we'll have you guys come up with the main groups you have to work with throughout the hiring process. For example, one group would be the hiring managers. Another group would be training. We'll break out into groups, we'll get you a sheet of paper, some markers, and then we'll identify those main groups that you deal with throughout the hiring process. 3 groups, how many of us are there? So those 4 can be a group, those 4, and then you 3 want to be a group.
Work for the ones?
Really?
Just to make this a little simple,
Got it?
for the next step, well, yeah, but make sure.
Perfect. You don't want to even more than that.
Yeah.
All right.
But maybe you could pick out, they're combining some groups, because they have like 10 groups.
I think they have 3. So, all right, part 2. Everyone has their sheet. If we want to go ahead and play this short YouTube. Relational coordination has what are the 7 dimensions, which were on that board earlier in this video. We'll kind of go over it at a very high level. Real short.
From Professor Gittell's research,
we know that the coordination and communication between frontline professionals affects performance outcome in terms of quality, efficiency, and productivity. The great thing about it is that she identified 7 key points that determines performance outcome. Things should be actually able to see and hear in the work process. There's a task integration based on shared goals, shared knowledge, mutual respect. Is the communication timely, frequent, precise, problem solving? The point is that you should not only work with and expect that from your employees, you should expect that from yourself.
And also here as well. So you have the communication aspects, which communicate frequently, timely, accurate, problem solving. Then you have other dimensions, which are shared goals, shared knowledge, mutual respect. So now we'll look and we've identified the key groups here. So now we're going to rate, based on these 7 dimensions, how strong that is. So for example, up here we have the hiring manager and HR. So we're going to use 3 different markers. And you can, up here we have the ICU for an example. Low relational coordination will be red. So if they don't have high relational coordination based on these 7 dimensions, we would want to make it red. Moderate would be pink, high is green. So for the ICU example, when they were looking at the groups, they thought the ICU nurses and the pharmacists had high relational coordination. So they made a green line. So that's what we'll do. So we'll rate it based on these 7 dimensions, and you'll relate the relational coordination between each group.
Do 2.
Everything falls into place.
So there's some communication. So you're saying timings that there's a lot of frequency.
It's all of these
Timely,
things.
accurate,
Shared
problem
goals,
solving, all of
shared
that.
knowledge, mutual respect, and good communication. Do as much for you guys.
Yeah, right.
But for them, we do a
I
handoff.
mean, we do get some.
Well, people have precepts and have been through the classes, so
So I think it's strong, but I don't think it's,
I think
I would call it maybe, because there's some work that can be done.
Last minute. I say it's kind of mentioned, you know, when we go through the hiring process, we kind of look at everything linear. You know, it's like we have the recruit, we have him coming in, he's training this day, he's coming in this day. But there are a lot of different departments involved. And then also people are noticing, you know, should we draw a line between 2? You know, low doesn't always mean it's bad. I mean, there might be a reason why they don't communicate. But when you look at it and you see if it's low, you could also see if that were to be higher, if the RC would be higher, could there be some benefits from that? And should we look further into that? So were there any initial thoughts about the exercise? How did you guys feel it went? Did you notice anything? Did it make you see anything a little bit differently?
I think this project kind of hit close to home because a lot of us are in that hiring process, so it's kind of fresh. in my opinion.
You just went over it.
yeah, a lot of us were in the middle of
So
it.
it's very easy.
We have done 40 interviews in the last 2 months.
And I run into things, you know, I just hired somebody new, and HR said they start this day, but then training said, well, we don't have a class till a month away. So obviously HR and maybe training, maybe there's a little RC there to make sure they start on a training day or get them in earlier or something like that. That's just an example. Can you see how you could use this exercise in the future?
See how everybody's connected. You know, you may not recognize that this person in this role is connected in this whole process, and they are. And this is, especially in PD, you know, when we did the whole mapping of this, and you can just see how interconnected that we are or not, and where we need to become more interconnected. So,
And I think just to add to what Gretchen said, in case management, when we were going through this process, there were a lot of groups that we thought initially they don't need to connect. So we thought, oh, well, this person never needs to talk to this person, so what's the point? And what we found through the process was, well, actually, we can learn things from each other. And there are times when, not that it may not be frequent communication, but just the shared goal that we're both working for the same thing, even though we don't connect on a daily or even monthly basis, but there's still some connection there. And that was really enlightening for a lot of folks on the CM team, because we just do our thing, every day, and we don't think about all the other people who we impact and they impact us. So.
Right, so if you have mutual respect for each other,
Right.
that shared knowledge between departments, what do you do? Job shadow to find out what somebody actually does. Frequently accurate problem-solving communication, having shared goals,
Right.
mutual respect.
Even, shared goals especially, because do you have a shared goal with HR in that this is the expectation, or with whatever department?
Right.
I think that's huge, because you're working hard and they're working hard, but do you have a shared goal? It doesn't sound like. And it cuts down on the blaming and the accusations, and all of that, when you appreciate and have that mutual respect, that we know you're working hard, I'm working hard, but somehow we don't share this goal.
And the laptops, I think, are a perfect example, right? Like, okay, I set up the laptops for new hires. So whose responsibility is it if there isn't one set up from the day that they start,
Or
right?
whose responsibility, you might say, I set it up.
But I don't buy the
But I don't
laptops.
get it,
Exactly.
right? So,
Yeah.
but when I hear set up, I assume you're going to go
You
do all
have
that
one to
stuff,
set up,
right?
yeah.
So the shared knowledge, right, is knowing what each other's roles are, and having that goal is when somebody comes in, they have a laptop, and it's shared between the people that are involved to have the IT and the equipment there. So in a real world scenario, you would have everybody, and this would go out in a survey, you'd have everybody from these departments in there. So they would tell you how they felt. If I was a person, or talent acquisition, I would give my feedback on everybody on my relational coordination with HR. And then someone from HR would also be doing the same as how they talk about talent acquisition, and you would break down and look at that data.
I just think this is good.
Restrict the circles to only answers about people who are taking the survey, so keep it square. So what we saw here was FEP is red, and they were off in their corner, and commercial case management was blue in their corner. Yellow was a
Wow.
This is also an adjacency matrix. And you can see that we're zoomed more, which means it has moved in much tighter. We can see there's red penetrating into the blue camp, blue penetrating into the red.
I always have a script.
All right. No ringing of the bells, but none of
I like the bell.
My mouth has started watering every time I
Lunchtime. So the next one we're going to be focusing on is one called 1, 2, 4, all. So in the beginning, we're all just going to kind of sit and self-reflect for a few minutes. So I'll give you a topic and a question that we're going to focus on. After that, we'll break off in pairs. So we'll have about 5 minutes where pairs will go and they'll discuss the topic. And then we'll double that pair and we'll be in fours, again, talking for about another 5 minutes. At that point in time, when we break out in fours, if we could all the groups go by one of the pads and then kind of write down and take notes, and then we'll all discuss as a group. And then after you did that 5 minutes, then we'll all come together and we'll discuss and hit some of those. To have some self-reflection and think about what key steps and support is needed to expand the effective use of liberating structures throughout medical care solutions. So again, just everybody take a few minutes and think about what key steps and support is needed to expand the effective use of liberating structures. 2 minutes, I'll ring the bell, and then we can pair up, and then you guys can discuss your thoughts. All right, so go ahead and pair up, and then we'll discuss what your self-reflection was, and what key steps and support is needed to expand.
We're gonna have to be 2 minutes.
5 minutes. We're gonna have more time to talk. So if the pairs could pair up now, near a piece of paper over there on the board, and continue the conversation, but let's put some of those top ideas on paper. You guys want to go? Yeah, go ahead and come up and
So, yeah. Some type of a format to share these or just incorporating in the structure, right?
Yeah, like a venue or a meeting to share.
But to that point, I don't want to lose them.
All right.
There's no easy, but there's no automatic solution.
So, due to time, typically we'd all get together and then we could have a bigger discussion, but why don't we just go around the room and everybody giving just their top one. We'll go ahead and start here.
Okay, so we'll just go with number one. So the first thing is for everyone to start incorporating these methods and planning to use them. So really thinking about my next step would be how can I take ownership and incorporate it into either a training or a meeting or some type of project planning. So really leaving this room and taking that ownership upon myself that I'm going to schedule something, I'm going to do the next step. So that way it starts becoming public to all of Medical Care Solutions and other teams, and then it starts being adopted as part of our culture.
And also top-down role modeling, having our senior leadership director VP show us how they're using it to work with us and our frontline things would be very helpful too.
Routinely with different groups promoting it and actually celebrating our wins and reporting it out. So being high visibility about our results as well.
It's like Elizabeth's just looking at me.
Go Shambo,
Manager or leader driven, trying to find a way to maybe train each staff member on a particular topic and then asking them to use it with the team in some context. So that way everybody's getting to the experience of it, but you're putting tools in their tool belt too. And then we thought about using the videos potentially. I assume that's what this is for, so that we can use those to share as a way to back up what we've already practiced. So you're kind of pushing it down into the team, so you've made it more widespread.
1, 2, 4.
Right.
What are your reflections on it? How do you think you can use it?
I think it gives my staff who are really shy, it gives them that opportunity to talk. We always let them start with somebody that they know really well. So they feel really comfortable, and it gets their ideas out there, even though they're not going to be the one that stands up and says it in front of everyone.
I think 1, 2, 4 would be really good for, I see it as a refinement of solutions. So it goes through one person, then 2 to refine, then 4 to further refine, and then all to get to the best solution from the team.
We didn't get to cover in any of the workshops was one called the Discovery and Action Dialogue. We use that a lot during positive deviance to find the positive deviance, have people, really you're asking everybody to come up with the problems and the solutions or maybe a solution. It kind of put more meaning to it because the people were really engaged. And then I started looking at, this is really useful stuff, so looking at some of the other liberating structures and using them in every day. To me as a supervisor, it got my team a lot more engaged, and it also saved me a ton of time. So
You save your time.
a ton of time. So you look at some of these things and they look intimidating at first. You start reading through the pamphlet and you're like, I don't have time to do all this prep. you know, when you get to the bare bones of it, it's actually pretty quick to put together. There's not a lot of thought that you have, or you have to set up, but you're letting the employees in the ground level and the front line really do the hard work and the hard thinking and coming up with the action plan. I'll throw a meeting together, an agenda, put all this time and work into it. At the end, you're like, do you have any questions? Usually you might get one. But this, I mean, people were fired up. I mean, a week after the meeting, I was still getting emails with stuff, with questions and ideas. So to me, I really saw the benefit right off the bat and started incorporating more and more into my department. I think 45 different pain points at that point in time. And it was really the engagement I was most surprised about. The energy that came out of that meeting. And everybody thought they had a piece in the game, and they thought that somebody was listening. The prior supervisor, I think, was more authoritative. So it was a big change, new supervisor. He's listening to me, we're able to talk, we're able to solution, we're able to bring our problems to the forefront. So the energy and the innovation and engagement that came out of it was surprising to me. And I think the progress is important, because even though you might not have finalized or completed, just let them know, this is where we're at. This is where we sit. I am working toward it, but just to touch bases because they brought up the issue. So it's important to let them know that you haven't forgot about it just because it's not completed. This is where we're at. This is what we have to go through.
Where it's not something you just checked off your list that, oh yeah, I did this because I went to this workshop and I was supposed to do this as your supervisor. So okay, yeah, we did this, but that you as your supervisor are actually listening from the ground up to what is being expressed.
So every meeting we would go and look at, okay, these were the pain points you guys brought up. How many did we check off? And so once they saw that action that was happening, that was kind of meat on the bone. So I could revisit with them, show them, this is what you guys brought up. This is what you said you wanted. We were able to check off some of these and being honest with them too. Some of the stuff, it just couldn't happen. Like they want 3 more employees. Well, yeah, everybody wants more employees. That was fine with them. I think when they saw that there was action and there was improvement, just because you weren't able to do everything, I mean, I never got questioned, why can't we do that? It seems like you're saying no, But you build up that trust. And then it makes it easier in the future, too.
The employees,
was
that a hard switch for them to make? Or?
Not at all.
Really?
Not at all. I think they were waiting for it almost. So once it came, it was like you opened up the floodgates, No, there was zero resistance.
All right.